Julianne?
I was just waiting to see if my colleague in transportation planning had.
Want to comment, Dave?
Yeah,
Sorry.
through you, Mr. Chair. There is available on-street parking at the back on Bond Street. That was one of the things that we looked at. Also, we were notified that there's a lot from what we see here is that people are getting picked up and dropped off at the site. So there's potential there that people won't be parking on site. But I think to your point, I think it would be a good idea to have some kind of written agreement from the neighboring property owner versus just, you know, a verbal conversation that was had.
I think that would be appropriate myself, because this is something that once it's approved, it's approved. So you have to look past even the conditions, and it just will circumvent any concerns or problems in the future, and specifically if the neighboring property ends up changing ownership.
Yes.
And someone comes in, and then you've got a real problem, because they could redevelop that site. It is, if I remember correctly, I think that's a neighborhood shopping center zoning. And it could cause some real issues for, you know, not only the new purchaser, but also for the applicant as well. Whereas you don't want to have someone come back later on and state that, no, there's nothing in place, and you have to stay off the property. So I think it's for everyone's protection. Julianne?
Yeah, it's typically what we call an off-site parking agreement. So if
Exactly.
that could be worked into a condition, that'd be fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think it would still be nice to see a site plan personally, because I'm not quite sure if you can fit these spots in the back of or on this property. And I think Scott is, if I'm hearing correctly, you're kind of echoing that, are you not?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I actually did a drive-by of this particular site, and there are only 6 lined parking spaces in behind the unit now. There may be the ability to squeeze a few more in if we knew where the lot line was, but there are only 6 there now. So, but I like your idea about having an off-site parking agreement as an additional condition. So I don't know how we come up with the wording for that, but
I think we have standard wording for that, if I remember correctly. Correct, Diane?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thanks. So we have some standard wording for that. I guess the question is how do we deal then with the site plan? Do we look at a deferral for 30 days to the next meeting to be able to put together a site plan, to be able to attach with the recommendation? Or do we leave it up to staff to work out a proper site plan accordingly? Julianne? You're muted, Julianne. There you go.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, I think if you can make it a condition that the applicant provide us a plan for this, I'm not sure that we would necessarily require site plan approval for this.
Not a plan, but a parking plan.
But perhaps something that we could just attach as like a parking plan or a site drawing that shows the existing parking. Dave and I can work with the applicant and make sure that it meets the requirements. If committee's acceptable to that, I think that would be a little less onerous at this point.
Which is fine. We're not trying to make this onerous, but I'd like to just ensure that this is actually put in place properly for the applicant, in order that this can, run smoothly or properly going forward. Richard?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, just quick caution for the offsite parking agreement. Just want to make sure that there's enough flexibility retained for the applicant. I'm not sure if the property owner of the plaza next door, it would be aware of the implications of that long-term of having to register it on title. So just a caution to committee that wouldn't want the applicant to have his building permit be postponed further by having perhaps the next door neighbor maybe not be completely in agreement with being able to register something on title for the off-street parking agreement.
Well, I personally myself would feel more comfortable having a registered acknowledgement that would run with the property, just given the nature. It's either an agreement or it's not an agreement, put it that way, instead of a loosey-goosey deal. So anyone else? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I second your concerns about no site plan and an off-site parking agreement. Maybe this should be deferred for a month to let the applicant get something in writing from the neighbor, and also to submit to staff some kind of indication of where these parking spaces are going to be. So I'm Mr. Chair, I'm amenable to a deferral on this, subject to what the other members of the committee may say.
Anyone else want to chime in? Mike?
I just had a quick question to either staff or the applicant regarding the parking and the lot itself. Are these lots well defined by either fences or parking bollards, or is there an opportunity for anyone here to essentially poach parking from the neighbors?
Julianne?
I can answer that. The parking lot is not well defined. It's a wide open space for all of the buildings in that area.
Right. Julianne?
For you, Mr. Chair, I know this property quite well. It used to be a church at one point in time that my father attended, and
I was going to say your grandfather, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
but thanks, Mike.
Because I did, as
Yeah.
that many years ago too.
I think there was always some sort of an unwritten, not that that is a permanent thing, but there was always some sort of an unwritten rule about the parking spilling over into this, like historically that has happened.
Right.
That's to say that that will necessarily resolve the community's concerns, which, but I wanted clarification. Do you want an off-site parking agreement registered on title, like to Richard's point, or just some sort of a written agreement between the two parties or some sort of written, some communication between the two parties that isn't necessarily registered on title? Because I think that's to Richard's point earlier. Perhaps the committee can clarify what it is that we're asking of the applicant.
Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to support Member Bob's suggestion for a deferral. Now that I know that there's actually a survey that's available for somebody to draw up a parking plan, I may be able to support in the long run this variance, knowing that there are 8 parking spaces without an agreement. But right now, I'm not sure that they can get 8 parking spaces. So I think Bob has made a good point that we should probably just defer this to the next meeting or however long it takes to get that plan. And then we can assess whether or not we need an agreement registered or not. So.
Okay. Richard?
Just through the chair, maybe the applicant would like to speak to that. I know there has been some delay due to the variance issue coming up. Sort of at the last minute for their building permit. Understand zoning's got to be met, but just want to make sure that the applicant would be clear of the implications of a deferral. Perhaps an alternative to the, in terms of making sure that the 8 parking spaces are available on site could be a condition that, it's something along the lines of that it's demonstrated to staff that there are 8 spaces on site. I know historically we have recognized 8 spaces on the property, so that's just something for committee's consideration.
Okay.
If I may?
Yeah. I
have actual verbiage on my phone in regards to the plaza owner with Bashir. It is actually in writing, and I know it's not going to be very professional for me just to turn it right here. But this is the actual him saying, however many we need to be in accordance for overflow parking there, he is in total agreement with, and he stated that in this text message with me. So I know that when we were speaking with Richard to bring that to the meeting there, and hopefully it would be a supportive documentation there that he has acknowledged and is in agreement with the supporting overflow parking.
Okay, it illustrates a willingness, but it doesn't quite satisfy.
No, I totally understand. Yes.
So then that, that being the case, it shouldn't be a problem getting then what you would need. Scott, Bob, either one of you just want to chime in or make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll chime in at this point. I don't see a big problem with this, except for the fact that moving forward, if properties change ownership, there could be some concern. So I'm going to move that this be deferred for 1 month in order to get some documentation from the applicant about the attitude of the neighbor. And also now that we've been informed there is a survey, maybe a parking plan could be provided next month. So my motion is to defer this for 1 month to allow the applicant to put together the required paperwork.
Okay, just prior to me calling for a second, Andrew, do you want to address what that does? Because I did hear from Richard, I guess there's some timing concerns or something. I just
Well, I mean, again, we
did address that, right?
Yeah, we're sort of on hold with this property right now, as we, it needs to be, permits need to be obtained in order to renovate it, in order to even have the clinic. So in terms of a parking plan, if I could have a bit of understanding of exactly what you need for that, is just a drawing of the spaces at the back, or photos, or what would be appropriate?
It's going to have to be a drawing taken off the survey showing actual dimensions. I'll let Dave address that because he's
through you, Mr. Chair. We'll need to know like the parking space dimensions, like 5.5 in length by 2.6 meters in width, the drive aisles, the width that will be accessing those parking spaces. Those are the kinds of things that we would be looking for.
It's not a difficult plan to put together.
No.
Could I ask a question to Richard?
Yeah.
He indicated that the property was recognized with 8 parking spaces in the in the past. Is that in accordance? Are we still into that, or?
Nope.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Okay. I just thought that if it was recognized in the past, when you buy the property, I thought those go with it.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
It's just what would fall within the 4 corners of the property. So, and we can't tell from this what that is.
Okay.
Okay. So, Bob, I guess you hear this concern, and before I call for a second, if you want to continue with that, that's fine. Otherwise, personally, I think that we probably could do it by way of a plan prepared by the applicant, submitted to the planning department and to the satisfaction of traffic and the director of planning, which would probably satisfy that concern as well, just in order to buy the applicant an additional 30 days sooner for proceeding with construction. So, and then in terms of a parking agreement, we do have standard language for that in any event that would accommodate the same concerns. So Julianne, did you have a comment? You're muted. There we go.
You, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to agree that would probably be helpful to Andrew and his team there to try and get the office up and running, because the deferral would mean they wouldn't even be able to proceed on their building permits. And that was another month. So if the committee can see their way to that, I think staff would be willing to work with Andrew and assisting them in developing the site plan or the parking plan, as well as some sort of written correspondence that staff would be satisfied with, that indicates.
Yeah, you want to. Yeah, I think that further to written correspondence, I think you do want a formal agreement in place and something that states that it runs in perpetuity. Whether it's registered on title or not, I think we could leave that up to the satisfaction of the legal counsel for the city. And in their we could leave that up to I think legal counsel for the city solicitor to determine that, because an agreement is an agreement. The notice is just something that's a notice of the agreement, but the agreement doesn't change in any event. So I think
may I ask a quick question? So an agreement on title with the plaza owner, so set for life. So what if they do sell the property? Then what do we do with the property that we own?
Oh, it's nothing. So what that does is that just isn't, what they're referring to as a notice, Andrew, so that the notice would be to notice that there is a parking agreement. So nothing would change. And it's an acknowledgement, legal, it's an acknowledgement from the current owner. And then if someone title changes hands, the new owner has to acknowledge that they're assuming that parking agreement. So they can't dispute it in the future once they take title. That makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, my concern is, I mean, why would they feel the need to do that? I mean, we can obviously go to them and get something on paper and make it formal and stuff. It just seems, why would they even bother?
Well, they've said they would. It's, I guess, you could almost have a reciprocating agreement, because with this all looking like it's all one lot in any event, who's to say that someone that's going to the building next door isn't going to park on your property? And then you're forced to police that too, right? So I think it might it generally would clean the whole situation up. Scott?
And what are alternatives to this if this doesn't happen for us? What would you guys suggest we do?
Julianne?
For you, Mr. Chair, I think what I suggested was clarification, whether or not the committee wants an agreement registered on title or not, and what that means for Andrew as well as the adjacent property owner is that it will be registered on the title of both lands.
Right.
And which involves a legal procedure, and it'll go into it'll be tied to the lands in perpetuity. What staff was asking clarity on was whether or not just a written agreement between the two of you, the two property owners today, and whether or not that would be satisfactory for the committee for this purpose, in terms of acknowledging and understanding that there is a written agreement, but it's not registered on title. So I think that was the clarity that staff was seeking, of whether the committee would be satisfied with that. What that means for you, Andrew, and your team is that it's not titled to your lands, nor will it bind the property owner next door, but it's something that shows or demonstrate that the two of you have spoken and that the two of you are in some sort of an agreement.
Right.
Scott?
It's not tied to the lands.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I've been listening intently to the whole conversation, and what I'm about to say is trying to protect the applicant as well.
Yep.
I still fully support Bob's recommendation to defer, and the rationale is I think we need a survey here. I'm actually concerned, having seen the property, that there might actually be a mutual access between these two property buildings, like in between them, and they may not even have the right width of a driveway, and they may actually need a right of way potentially over this. The parking spaces that are in behind are actually, I think, probably 10 by 20, like they're old school parking spaces, and they may be able to get more spaces based on the new dimensions of, the 5.5 by 2.6.
Right.
If they come back with the ability to provide 9 parking spaces, as an example, I may be able to be supportive of this without an agreement. And I think that would be in the best interest of the applicant. So 30 days is not the end of the world if the applicant gets what they want in the ultimate. So
Okay.
I'm going to fully support Bob's recommendation for deferral.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor from Bob, and that still stands, correct, Bob? Okay, Scott has seconded that motion. And do I have all in favor? Mike? Okay, opposed? There we go. 30-day deferral. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. This application's A202081. And we had on this application, the applicant online, which is Caitlin, I guess. Hi, Caitlin.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hi, Bob.
We had received some correspondence from the consulting group. I think as recent as yesterday is when I saw it, in regards to the recommendations. Julianne, have you seen that? You muted, Julianne, you're muted. There we go. Did you see the correspondence in regards to the comments regarding the staff report and the recommendations? And they're saying that it states 0.29 when it should be 0.25.
I did not.
Okay, it's October 16th.
At least I don't recall seeing it.
Yeah, did you get it at all? Do you know?
I would have to get out of this meeting now and check, but I'm not 100% sure if I saw it. Yeah.
Discrepancy. And you know what? I'm going to let the applicant, since you haven't seen that, I'll just let the applicant address that, Caitlin.
Thank
And
you.
then we can, I was trying to short track that, but there we go. I'll hand it over to you.
All right, well, thank you. And through the chair. So my name is Caitlin Gillis. I'm a planner with T. Johns Consulting Group. And the letter that was being referenced is dated October 16th, submitted to Diana Saunderson. And I believe it was circulated on that Friday. It's just a discrepancy in the requested parking ratio. We're asking for a 0.25 per unit parking ratio instead of the recommended 0.29 spaces. And I believe the discrepancy came from the application form. There was an error of 0.29. However, the justification, the cover letter, and the statutory public notice was for 0.25 spaces.
Right.
And so we respectfully request that the application is amended to support 0.25 spaces per unit.
Correct. So then that way, then would be in the recommendation, it would be revising 0.29 to 0.25. Are you in agreement with that, Julianne? Do you
I'm
have
fine with that. I'm fine with that. For you,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
Good. Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks for picking that up, Caitlin. So we'll make that amendment or adjustment in the recommendation. And otherwise, I'll turn it over to the members. Anyone have any questions, comments, or motion? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you to the applicant. This is great. The amendment is very minor. And I think what the Indwell Community Homes is doing is something that it'd be nice to see more of, and to have so many people associated with this organization and neighbors come out in support of this. It puts a smile on my face. So, Mr. Chair, I move that this be approved with the two conditions as amended. And
Scott?
congratulations to the applicant.
Scott?
Yeah, before we get to the motion, which I fully support as well, Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick question for the applicant. Dealing with just a little bit of history on me, I've been a municipal planner for 32 years in my previous life, and normally affordable housing projects have a funding source either through the province or the feds. Is that correct in this case as well, or can somebody confirm that for me?
So through the chair, I'll pass this over to Ms. Sylvia Harris, who is the development coordinator with Indwell, and she can speak to the funding.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yep.
We don't have a confirmed funding source, but we will be applying to provincial funds through the region of Waterloo. And then we also have an application in investment fund that is far along in the process. We have a letter of intent, but it's not finalized. But there aren't final agreements.
Okay.
I had trouble hearing there, Mr. Chairman, but I'm assuming that there will be some funding in the future. Just when we start to reduce parking the way we're doing, if it is for an affordable housing project, it makes sense. If it ends up being market rent, it doesn't make sense. But I fully believe this is going to be an affordable project, and I'm happy, very happy to second Bob's motion.
All right. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
All right, next application is A2020-82. It's 293 Blucher Boulevard. Then we have the applicant and we have resident in opposition. Staff's recommending approval with conditions. And let me see here, let's get myself organized. Okay, just first off to the applicant, have you had an opportunity to review staff's report?
Yes, we have.
Okay, and do you have any questions or comments in regards to the staff report?
No questions. We support the staff.
Okay, so then what we'll do is Susan online? No?
Hi, Denny. Sorry, the resident in opposition for this application is Andrea. Susan was for the previous application, but she
Oh,
actually.
I'm sorry, yeah, okay,
That's
Andrea,
okay.
yeah, I got you.
Susan-
Too much paper on my desk. Okay, Andrea. Yeah, thank you. We'll just give you an opportunity to address your concerns.
I guess what we're concerned about in the neighborhood is that these public laneways have been used for people biking, walking, kids, animals, all this kind of thing. And that laneway hasn't been used in decades, aside from the very end beside the sidewalk. So how is that going to, I guess we're just concerned about how that's going to be a safe place for people to still be using as a public laneway.
Okay, I'll let Dave address that for you then in a minute. If there's nothing else, I believe we also have Jonathan who's in opposition as well. Are you online, Jonathan? No?
I think our kids were, that's my husband, our kids were kind of.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think he might have had to leave.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Dave, do you want to address the lane concerns?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair, like the triplex itself wouldn't be generating a lot of traffic through there, and the laneway is meant to have vehicular traffic on it. So we feel with just the amount of vehicular traffic on there, it shouldn't be an issue.
Can I
Okay,
ask a follow-up question?
sure.
So with the garages where they are, right, like you come out of their garages at the back of the property, right onto the laneway, is there going to be enough room for them to see people who are walking down there before they exit? Or could like mirrors be installed or something just so that there's not that kind of thing happening?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that the people going in and out of the garage, this is not something that's unusual. These types of things happen along a lot of our lanes in the city. I would suggest that people that do this realize that people are walking through there and there potentially could be vehicles as well going through there. So I believe that people are taking the proper precautions to exit the garage. People
Okay.
also have the option as well, if they choose to reverse into the garage and drive out as well. They don't necessarily all have to be reversing out as you're suggesting.
Okay, Scott.
Had a question for Dave and also for the applicant. Dave, as you say, lane-based products are all over the place. Does the city maintain this laneway during the winter months?
Yeah, I believe they would, yes, because it's a public right of way.
Okay, fantastic. Just a quick question for the applicant. I'm actually a supporter of lane-based products because you get a beautiful view on the street as far as your elevations and whatnot. My problem is the only plan that we got with the application was basically the plan view. So I'm trying to understand how your garages are going to work. How many garages are going to be accessible at the back? Is it 3 spaces, 2 spaces? How many?
It's 3 spaces.
So there's enough space there to get 3 wide in the back?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Am I audible?
You are.
Okay. Well, I would just mention that although we're across the street, residents on that side of the street had mentioned to us that the laneway is poorly maintained in the winter, and the asphalt is crumbling, I would say, right now. So I guess their concern had to do with I guess, how the city will maintain that in the future and future developments along that side of the street, how that will impact like the access along there, especially for residents at the ends who I don't believe are necessarily aware, since they were not in the 30-meter radius for notification.
Okay, well, before I pass that on, I suppose that once that laneway, or if it becomes more active, it probably will be maintained a lot better than maybe it currently is right now. And that might be something that you may want to take up with your ward alderman as well to help out with that, because it sounds like it may be an issue outside of this application and more so towards the actual road maintenance. That's just a comment, but Mike?
I think again, through the chair, just a quick comment with respect to that laneway. Number one, those garage doors are at the basement elevation of anything planned for Blucher Street. They are not at ground level. So I'm just curious how the plan will move forward with their use. Are you going to maintain the garage that's at ground level as well, that opens up onto Blucher Street? And the other thing is, has the laneway itself, sort of the care and custody of that laneway, defaulted to the businesses that exist on the opposite side of that laneway? There's a great deal of that lane that's open to the parking lots of the businesses, and I just wonder if the city has sort of passed some of that responsibility on, and that's why it's not getting the care that it probably needs. I don't know who that can be addressed by. Those are just my observations.
Well, I guess I could sort of, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have that answer of anything being done like that. I wouldn't know about that. The only people that may know about that would be our operations group.
Yeah.
They may know about that.
Yeah. In any event, I think there is an obligation by the city to maintain it in any event, correct, Dave?
Yeah, and
Yes,
I don't think,
correct.
can I say something about this? Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right, Andrea.
Talking to one of the neighbors who lives next to the property, she doesn't have a computer, so couldn't be here. But she said that I think it was sometime in the last couple of decades, there was some argument between the residents and the businesses behind, and there was a fence put up on the public laneway. So just judging by that, I don't think the businesses help clean off the public laneway.
Okay. All right. Scott?
Yeah, quick question for staff or to the applicant. What is the status of the site plan application on this particular site?
Anyone answer that?
Ivana, can you jump in?
Yeah.
Unmute.
Muted.
Unmute.
Who's going to answer that?
Sorry, was the applicant going to answer that?
No, we
Yeah.
can answer that. We were muted. So we have not submitted anything for site plan approval because we wanted to go through variance first, and this was with consultation with the city staff. So
Okay,
it will be submitted in the next couple of weeks.
right. Anyone else, Scott?
I just want to let the residents know that I have reviewed their comments, and I also, on behalf of the applicant, I read his response as well. It would have been nice to have some plans submitted just so we have a better read of this, but I can visually understand what's going to happen here, and it's going to be a very, I'm going to say, nicely designed building looking from the front with access to a public lane, which is, again, 20 feet wide. So it's a wide lane at the back with 3 parking spaces for the triplex. I think this is a grand idea. I know the residents are concerned about the public lane and people reversing or coming out of the garage, but I think it's going to work very well functionally. Staff certainly support it, and so do I. I'm going to move the recommendation subject to the 3 conditions. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Right, second. Mike,
Yeah, I'll second that.
all in favor?
Sorry, Bob.
Sorry.
Carrie, thanks.
Mr. Chair, before we call for the vote, I do notice in the staff report that the staff is requesting or a tree preservation plan. So I think we would need to add that as a fourth condition.
Scott, you willing to amend your recommendation or your motion, I mean?
I'd like Julianne to comment on that. I know there's one sickly tree near the back of the property when I went to see it. I'm not sure it's worth preserving, but I'll allow the staff to comment.
Julianne?
For you, Mr. Chair, this is something that can be dealt with through the site plan process. Remember, they are going to be required to be going through site plan process, and the tree preservation plan would be part of that process.
All right.
I'm okay with that.
Is it possible to make one more comment?
Quick one. We already have a motion on the floor, Jonathan, but sure.
Just that, well, I'm not sure what the tree preservation process is for, but like the trees were already cut down along the side previous to this. So it's kind of a moot point. Additionally, the laneway is, while there's 20 feet between the adjacent buildings, the actual paved part is only about 10 feet. So again, I think our concern mainly concerns
with the lane,
the actual lane and maintenance of it, kind of thing. Like if we could be
right. And that's where I think, like I had commented before, I think the best venue for that might be lobbying your alderman to try and help to deal with staff to get some proper maintenance measures put in place, which the applicant is going to want to see that as well. So they might be able to raise those concerns as they're going through their site plan application too, correct?
Okay.
So, and then it's everyone working together in the same direction. So it seems to be a common goal. So there's a motion on the floor. Scott, were you?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stay with my original motion. I think that any tree issue can be dealt with through site plan.
Right. I think Mike seconded that. Did you not, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next applications, A202083, that's 44 Bright Up Street. David, are you online, the applicant? David?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Staff's recommending approval with a condition. There's a required amendment. Have you had an opportunity to review staff report?
I have.
Okay, and are you willing to amend the application as requested?
Yeah, it was just a typo on the staff's part.
Exactly, still something we have to go through here. Okay,
Yep.
so the application is amended. Recommended condition, and the only other comment that I have is we may want to make a second condition that just says in accordance with the supplied plans, which would make it just clarify it a little bit further, make it less ambiguous. Beyond that, does anyone have any questions or comments? Or a motion?
Well, if no one else has any comments, I would recommend approval of this application with the small amendment as submitted.
Okay, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is A202084. It's 517 Old Cottage Close. Joshua is online. line as the applicant as registered. And Joshua, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, oh, there you are. Staff's recommending approval with a condition. It's just to revise your drawings for your building permit.
Yep.
Any questions, comments, motion?
Already submitted, so.
Great.
If you guys are.
Great. Okay. Anyone? Members? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a very minor variance. There's plenty of amenity space out the backyard, so I move that this be approved with the one condition.
Second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Joshua. This application is A 2020-39 and B 2020-40. I think we have Scott Patterson. Scott, are you there?
Yes, good morning. I'm here.
There we go. Okay. We have some opposition for this. We did receive some correspondence in that regard. Let me see. First off, staff's recommending approval with conditions. Scott, do you have any questions or comments regarding the report?
No, I've reviewed the staff report and the recommendations contained therein.
Okay.
And we've worked through staff and the Heritage Kitchener Committee on these applications. I have nothing further to add other than to say we're in full support.
Okay. We have some opposition. Are they online? I guess there's I think Norman, I'm not sure if he's here, or Rachel.
Hi, Denny. Norman wasn't able to attend today, but Rachel is online. I'm not quite sure if she's in support or opposition.
It says opposition on the sheet here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
We can't hear a word you're saying. Rachel. Rachel, you're on. Excuse me. Hang on, just Rachel.
I sent an email today. I was just more interested in seeing the proceedings. Able to hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we didn't hear a word you just said. Okay. Are you there now?
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, now I can. Yeah.
I'm sorry, my service is really bad. I just wanted to clarify. That I'm not in support or opposition.
Okay. All right. All right.
Thank you.
Observe. Okay. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, member Scott.
Just want to unmute myself first. Just for the lady that just commented, I did read your email. Can you help me out and identify where you are relative to either the severed lot 1 or severed lot 2? Because you say you have some Scottish pines close to your property line. Where are you located relative to the sketch?
I'm sorry, I think you have me confused with someone else because I did not send that information in.
That's people that couldn't attend, I think, Scott.
Okay,
Yes.
but did she not indicate that she had sent an email in? Because I didn't see that one.
I had sent an email in requesting to join this call. I did not give any other information.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Richard, did you have something?
Yeah, through the chair to Scott's point, believe the individual who wrote comments in by email lives to the west, immediately to the west of the subject property.
So that
Live in Kitchener, what does that mean?
Yeah, what relative to severed lot 1 or 2?
I believe it is severed lot 2.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair, it's actually directly beside severed lot 1.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay. All right. Yes, Scott?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions for the applicant and maybe one or two for staff as well. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into this particular plan through the Kitchener Heritage Committee. When I'm looking at the plan, Mr. Patterson, the existing house appears to have a circular drive close to severed lot 1, which would be interrupted. In other words, you're not going to have access to that anymore, or at least part of it. Do you still have room to access the garage? I can't see the dimensions there. Can you confirm with me you have access or maneuverability to the garage?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the circular portion of the driveway, as noted on severed lot 1, will be removed. That was not identified through the heritage impact statement as having any significance, so it is proposed to be removed from the project, and severed lot 1 would not have any encumbrances from the retained lands. It is my understanding that the area accessing the garage would work from a functionality standpoint, and there may be a modification needed to create a small turnaround or something like that, but I'm sure we can make that work.
Okay. And either for staff or to the applicant or both, the region is looking for a road widening here, starting off at 3.6 meters and potentially even as great as 8.6 meters. Has that been considered in the review of this particular application, and how is it going to affect any heritage implications?
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps I can speak to that first.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, we have received comments from the region regarding the road widening, and we have engaged our Ontario Land Surveyor to confirm the road widening requirement that is prescribed by the official plan currently. That road widening amount is 2.19 meters, and I have generated a supplemental sketch to illustrate that road widening, which has been furnished to City of Kitchener staff as well as regional staff, just to illustrate that. So we are aware of that road widening requirement.
It's good that it's becoming less. Are there any landscaped elements that the Heritage Committee wanted to retain on that widened portion? Because typically the region's going to do whatever the heck it wants to get rid of that stuff. There looks like some hedges and things that I'm seeing on the pictures.
And again, through you, Mr. Chair, the regional program or the regional study to identify the improvements to Bridgeport Road have not commenced yet. But regional staff are now aware of the heritage significance of the existing building and property. And through that process, it's my understanding that when the region brings forward their reconstruction plans for Bridgeport Road, that City of Kitchener staff would then engage with the region to advise about the heritage attributes of the site and would look to take whatever measures are possible at that time to try and protect those measures.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Or a motion? Scott?
I figured as much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I was very interested in this application. It's an interesting one in the fact that I'm very happy that the Heritage Committee has supported it. It's also looking to intensify a heritage property, and it looks like it's going to work functionally. So I guess on that note, I'm prepared to support the staff recommendation. I guess there are two, one for the one lot A and one for the one lot B.
All right. Second? Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Okay, next application is B 2020-41, A 2020-85, A 2020-86. It's 122 to 124 Mill Street. Arbent is the applicant. And are you online, Arbent?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I just noticed that there's a bell condition that needs to be inserted in this as well as a further condition. And then otherwise, I'll turn it over to, or actually, before I do that, Arbent, did you had a chance to review staff's comments?
Yes, I did.
Okay, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Turn it over to the members. Any questions, comments, or motion? Scott?
Get myself unmuted again. Mr. Chairman, I started looking at this application as a very simple application to sever an existing semi. And I found out through talking with staff, and I appreciate staff's honesty, I was concerned about the setback, actually, that the building doesn't really fit with the neighborhood, but unfortunately, it looks like staff issued a permit for the existing building erroneously. It was supposed to conform with Reams and it doesn't, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it right now, unfortunately. The building is set back a lot further than the homes on either side, so it looks kind of out of place, but I just wanted to put that on the record, that it would have been nice to have dealt with this variance initially when the original building was being constructed. I really don't have any objection to either the consent or the variance ultimately, but I'll let the rest of the committee put in their 2 cents.
All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments or a motion? There is a friendly amendment to the recommendation. That's to add the Bell condition, just so that we don't miss that. Anyone? Bob, Mike?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll chime in. I think this is fairly straightforward. I think to echo Mr. Hannah's concern, it would have been nice on the setback to have dealt with that before the building was built, but we can't do much about that now. So I will move that this be approved with the 13 conditions plus the additional condition regarding Bell.
All right, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Arbet.
Thank you.
Okay, the last application for the day is CC 2020-004, 56 Ruse. And Rachel is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Staff's recommending approval with conditions. Did you have any questions or comments regarding that, Rachel?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right. To the members, any questions, comments, or motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions. The staff report has got a couple of typos in it, and took me a little time to root through that. And I guess my question is just to confirm that this is a severance of lot 56 and that there is no new lots being created. I know this dates back to when was it, December, when we dealt with this previously, and all they're really wanting to do right now is to delete conditions 6 through 10, which I have no problem with. But I just wanted to confirm that this is a severance of lot 56 and that there is no new lot being created.
Julianne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's no new lot being created. It's a change of conditions application. The lot has been created with conditions that were attached, and the applicant is proposing to change some of those conditions through this application.
Right. Okay. Anyone else or a motion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll chime in and move that this be approved with, as per the staff report, with conditions 1 to 4 remaining the same and 6 through 10 are deleted.
Okay, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes today's agenda, today's meeting. Move for adjournment. Scott, second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone.
Denny, before you go.
Yeah.
I noticed a couple of weeks ago, and we'll carry this conversation offline via telephone or something. You've got a big development coming at, is it 2022 King Street?
Weber Street.
Weber
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah.